An old Cub used to say it's a good day to play two. Anytime we play two, two's got a big meaning for this one. Welcome into week 2 of Batting Cleanup, episode 2. And it's the second week of the college baseball season. I'm Evan Kamiko. That's Pig Trail Nation sports director, anchor Alyssa Orange. And for my title, well, you can just call me 5'4", class of 2019 on perfect game left fielder who didn't go anywhere. Alyssa, it's always fun. Week 2 of Batting Cleanup is finally here. Should we just jump right into it?
Absolutely. I'm excited. It was a good week 1. Loved what I saw from the Razorbacks overall. So let's get to it.
All right, let's jump straight in. Overall, a successful week of baseball. Anytime you have 4 games and you're able to go 3-1 and most of your lineup actually looks rock solid and gives you kind of more questions than answers, it's always a good thing. But what were your kind of overall thoughts on the Hogs opening up 3-1 against James Madison, dropping that Sunday game but picking up the win 4-0 on Monday?
Yeah, I think it just was one of those weekends where you're just happy to get the wins, to get the series. And obviously, I think fans wanted a sweep, but, you look at a JMU team who wanted to come in here and at least win one. And yesterday they beat Virginia Tech. So they're not a bad team. And you look around the rest of the league and the rest of the country, some other teams lost their opening games. So you got to be happy with what the Razorbacks did. And I think it was really just kind of dust some of the rust off. Hagen Smith, don't hit the panic button, right? I knew that they were probably going to contain him a little bit anyways. You don't want to exhaust Hagen right out of the gates, but he's going to clean it up. He's going to figure it out. So I'm not really worried about that, but it was really good to see Will McIntyre come in and do what he did. Really impressed with the freshman Colin Fisher on the mound on Monday. And then these new guys that we saw in Jared Sprague-Lott and Vahiva Loy and even Peyton Holt coming in, hitting clutch, Ben McLaughlin hitting clutch, Kendall Diggs just being Kendall Diggs. So I think overall, just really good to see this team find success early and take into this upcoming weekend, looking ahead to, okay, what do we figure out? And I think, last year, Evan, they opened up in Arlington against really, really good competition in TCU and Texas and Oklahoma State. This year it's week 2, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit, but I think it was good for Arkansas to kind of have this home opener with JMU before they head down to Arlington and face a little bit better competition to just kind of see what they need to tweak.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing from the whole weekend and all of the really only downside of the Razorbacks besides Gabe Gackel's debut didn't really go as planned, and Parker Coyle also didn't have a great outing as well. But the biggest thing was base running, right? They made a lot of base running issues throughout the entire week. That was really highlighted in that Sunday loss where you had a couple guys on. I believe Hudson White doubled, then got picked off at second early in that game. And then just a bunch of miscues that day and errors. But that's all stuff that you're going to clean up throughout time. Those are, it's cold, it's windy, it's not ideal conditions for baseball whatsoever. Yeah. Trust me, if anyone was cold in the stands, don't imagine how cold my hands were where I'm trying to film the camera and film the game. Because I couldn't feel my hands.
I gotta tell you, we went to Friday's game, and I know you guys were there, and Jacob was filming, and I remember telling you guys, dress warm. That concourse is cold anyways. That concourse is colder than you think it's going to be because of the wind. But I got to give props to my daughter. We took the kids, and she was running around having a grand old time. My sweet baby Finn was over in he's got 3 blankets on.
Oh, man.
He's just, it's hot chocolate. Just shivering, and we only stayed for 4 innings. But my daughter, on the other hand, running around having a grand old time.
I would have leaned more towards Finn. Unfortunately, I didn't watch a lot of the game because of where media seats you, but that's a conversation for another time, Oliver. But I was very cold, and I took your advice. I layered up in a bunch of layers and still was I can't feel my hands. And my issue again was I didn't bring my big Pig Trail jacket. So I was literally doing a live hit in a quarter zip and a t-shirt underneath it. So let's just say I was really cold. All the other stations were looking at me and they were like, "What are you doing right now?" And I'm like, "I'm just jumping around, getting antsy, trying to stay warm. Cold's a state of mind." But again, I think if you look at the team and we'll get back to closing thoughts on the weekend. They hit well. I think Vahiva Loy, if you look at the first 2 games, I was saying midway through the third game, this might be a little bit of an issue. Sorry, the second game. Whether or not you could have that debate when Peyton Stovall gets back has Jared Sprague-Lott done enough to maybe etch his name a little over Aloy? That's luckily, Aloy showed up once he got that hit. Because again, it's when you get that first hit as a Razorback, there's a lot of nerves when you start. I think any team in any league, you want to start on a good note. And when you don't, you just got to stay mentally, composed and not kind of worry about, wow, I'm not hitting right now. This isn't good. But I think Eloy did a good job with that, and that walk-off, 2-run RBI single that he hit at the end of game 2 to make it 15-5 in the 8th, did wonders for his confidence. So anyway, I guess we did last week. We talked about who our predictions for home run were. Were there any surprises from the entire opening weekend for you? Because I know my surprise was being 2 batters off.
Yeah, I think you were a batter off.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
No, I was 2. I was 2.
2 batters off?
It was
okay.
Sprague Lott, Ty Wilmsmeyer.
And you were like, dang it.
I was so mad. Usually I get those like way off, and we'll show the dig stinger count in a little bit because he did not hit one. But what were your overall most surprising player from the weekend?
Yeah, I had to think about this a little bit. And, I don't want to call Colin Fisher a surprise because we just hadn't seen him yet, right? But I think surprise is probably Ben McLaughlin because we haven't talked much about him, and he's just kind of that sneaky good player that does what he needs to do. He's able to produce when he needs to, and he's got that quiet confidence about him. But he's right now second behind Kendall Diggs in batting average after week 1. He is a guy that I think they're going to have a lot of production from throughout the season. So I think that might be it we never really talked about Ben. We knew he was there, obviously, playing at first base for the most part, but for him to bat the way that he did really surprised me. So I'm giving it to him.
That's a good one because we talked a little bit in the PTN special about the preseason baseball special about that first base battle, whether it's Jack Wagner or Ben McLaughlin. And I think Ben McLaughlin really did a good job at kind of solidifying exactly where, he would be. And I think, you could see on your screen right now kind of the overall alignment of how the Hogs looked, where McLaughlin, I think, confirmed that first spot in left field with Jones. I think he did a really good job to stay in that and kind of win that left field battle. But to me, the biggest surprise was behind the plate, the catchers. I think, Hudson White came out and did exactly what at least I hoped he would do and I guessed he would do, which was to hit a home run, for those of you at home counting. But really, even outside of him, Ryder Helfrich still had a really good, opening weekend. Only had 1 start, played in 1 game, but hit a home run, cool birthday home run. And, Jack Wagner did hit a little bit as well. And, same with Parker Rowland. Like, that's a catcher spot that I cannot wait to continue to watch because that's what really surprised me is that Ryder Helfrich showed up and Hudson White showed up, and that these guys, not saying they weren't going to show up, not saying that they would not show up, but they were ready, to go the second that they, got their opportunities.
Yeah, and I think that as we talk about all of this, like Jack Wagner or Ben McLaughlin, and then like did Jared Sprague-Lott do enough to, when Peyton Stovall comes back, like what's going to happen? And this is a good problem for DVH to have right now. The catchers behind the plate, who do you go with? Because you have 4 guys back there. That this was the one thing they really haven't had in the past was this much depth defensively. To where offensively you can plug guys in. You're not going to lose anything at the plate, but then you're also not going to drop off defensively either. And so if anything happens to anyone else throughout the season, you've got players to plug in. And I think that's been the biggest, question mark is, okay, so Peyton Stovall goes down. Peyton Holt, what does he bring to the table? We pretty saw quickly last year what Peyton Holt brought to the table, but you've got to be able to sustain those bats. And I think that right now it's good to see that, hey, we have options if anything were to happen, or just give guys rest so that they are fully healthy, rested, not getting a little fatigued by the end of the year because you've been able to have that flexibility, around the horn. I think that that's going to pay dividends for this Arkansas team down the road. And not to mention now in week 2, come back to me in like week 10.
That's fair. That's fair. It's early. We never know how early it is, but even to your point, I mean, Nolan Souza, the freshman second baseman, 6'3", guys, huge. He still was hitting too, and that's additional depth that we talk about. And even, I mean, we knew that the depth would be there in certain spots. I don't think we necessarily would have seen it, but again, I'd like to see these guys like Eloy and White and Helfrich. I'd like to see these guys go up against the SEC level pitching. And I think Friday night against Oregon State is really that first taste of, okay, how good really is that team? But we'll get there. The last thing I want to recap is, we've talked a little bit about it. We'll pull up our Hagen Smith K count really quickly, and now it's pulled up. He only had 2 strikeouts because he pitched 1 inning. Overreaction or not, should we worry about Hagen Smith? My answer is no, but I'll have you answer, and then I'll kind of explain.
Yeah, I'm not worried at all. I just know the confidence that he has in himself, the confidence that Matt Hobbs has in him. And again, it was cold, and I'm not trying to make excuses, but even Dave Van Horn, when asked about Vahiva Aloy after game 3 of him, like, hey, he's starting to come around, after 2 games, and are you happy to see him come back? And Dave was just like, he's cold. Like, I'm pretty sure he's cold. He's from Hawaii. He played his freshman year at Sacramento State in California. He was just cold, right? And I think that we can kind of give Hagen a pass. Now we have this conversation in 2 weeks, maybe see if there's a little bit of like over pressure with him, but Hagen's just fine.
Yeah, and if there's any trends that go on, I don't think he walked too many batters. And, I'll kind of read through his stats from the weekend if I can find his name. 27 ERA, 1 appearance, 1 start, only pitched 1 inning, 1 hit, 3 runs, 2 walks, and one, of course, the hit by pitch to open up. But he did strike out 2 guys. Yeah, he hit the batter. But again, we saw Brady Tiger the next day hit the leadoff batter too. So a little bit of funky things happening there. Maybe some conspiracy between players. I don't have my
and with no tinfoil.
No tinfoil hat today. I was running a bit behind this morning trying to get over here. But I think there's no reason to overreact yet to Hagen. Again, I think after he got through, because really it was 1 hit, 1 ball. Wind was blowing out. I think Fenwick Tremble, who just destroyed the Razorback pitching this entire weekend, one of the best hitters in the Sun Belt Conference, who's going to be a really exciting player, maybe a transfer portal guy for next year. Who knows?
Maybe. Okay, I hear you.
But somebody like that taking you deep and then you get pulled because it's cold, because you've thrown 42 pitches. We knew Hagen was only going to go 55 to 70 pitches. So it wasn't like there was a long leash for him to throw 80, 90 plus pitches. Because it's so cold, because there's no reason to. And Will McIntyre came in and shut the door. He pitched phenomenal over the last couple of days. But again, I don't think there's any real reason to worry yet about Hagen. But again, like you said, let's have this conversation in 2 to 3 days. And really quickly, our Diggs Dinger count, unfortunately, that number is at 0. I just have to pull this up. It is surprising because he laced a couple of really good balls and had some that I thought off the bat were like, okay, this has a chance. And, he hit a lot of hard balls. But, again, you're hitting that 2-3 spot. I'd kind of like to see if Diggs and White maybe drop down, move Peyton Holdup in the lineup. But that's a conversation for a little bit later.
Yeah. I do have to point out that every guy that hit a home run this past weekend were guys who came into the program first year. So very first home run as a Razorback for everybody. You're looking at Ty Hilmsmeyer, Jared Sprague-Lott, Jack Wagner, and Ryder Helfrich. So maybe you had to give the new guys some love. And Kendall's like, okay, you guys had the first weekend. It's my turn.
Yeah, and Kendall's probably like, it only matters hitting home runs at Globe Life Field. But that's the.
I'm saving it for week 2.
Oh yeah. For the more scouts and for the cool location, you'll get a nice little Instagram picture or 2. I'll get a couple Instagram pictures or 2 of myself maybe running the bases. We'll see. We'll see whose pictures are cooler, Kendall. We'll see.
You go sneak on the field and see what happens.
I might be able to. I have snuck on a couple Major League Baseball fields before.
Okay. All right.
But maybe some after game stuff. But let's talk. I mean, this weekend's gonna be really fun. It's Arkansas, and Friday night they play against the 7th ranked Oregon State, as well as Oklahoma State is gonna be in the Kubota College Baseball Series, as well as Michigan. Michigan and Oklahoma State both 2-2. Oregon State, they are I believe 3-0, 4-0. I gotta double check. 4-0. So overall thoughts. We'll get to that in a second. But this game. They're not at Baum-Walker. They're at Globe Life. Do you have any memories growing up of favorite, MLB stadiums you've been to? Because I've never been to Globe Life. So for me, I'm really looking forward to it, but have been to a lot of other places.
Yeah, I'm excited for you guys to go. Courtney and I went to this last year. It was so fun. But, growing up, my grandfather was a scout for the Orioles. So we did go to Camden Yard. I've been there for games, which is really, really cool. And as a Dodger fan, got to get out to Dodger Stadium for a few games. In the summer between my junior and senior years of college, because I was interning out there. So that was a lot of fun. I have been to the Braves ballpark, but the old one. So SunTrust Park. I haven't been to Truist Park yet. Let's see. I've been to obviously Globe Life, and I've been to the old Arlington ballpark, which is still there across the street. I haven't been to as many as I wish. I need to go to, I've been to Minute Maid, but it was for a Super Bowl thing. It wasn't a baseball game, but I've still been inside the building.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
does it count no matter what like major league stadium you go to in any of the sports? If you do you count like, oh, I've been there if you've just gone, or does it
I don't
count
know,
if
but
you've
yeah,
been
I
there
mean,
only for a game? Like it's like, oh well,
yeah,
I've been there, but I haven't really been there. How do you like count that?
I would not count, like if I was over here trying to check off major league ballparks, I wouldn't count it.
Hmm.
You know, like when I was in New York a few weeks ago, we toured Yankee Stadium, but I don't know, I wouldn't count that as like I haven't seen a game there yet.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I've been there, but I haven't seen a game there, which is two very different things.
Hmm.
Because I think you have to have that game day experience to be able to check it off your list.
Right.
But it's really cool. Kauffman Stadium, Arkansas played there a couple years ago, so that was cool. We went up there for that, and then I've seen the Dodgers play the Royals. So it's fun. I need to check off more. But there's just, I don't know, there's a different feeling about being in a ballpark. And I grew up in Richmond where the Richmond Braves were there, which was the AAA team before they moved it down to Georgia. And so when I
Hmm.
was a kid, like Andrew Jones and Chipper Jones came through for like 2 weeks,
Yeah.
right? So, but these guys who have come through, it's just, I don't know, it's really cool. I feel like I've grown up around a ballpark, and so I love going and seeing the nuances of all of them. I need to be better at checking off some, but work. Gotta
Right.
talk to those bosses. I need
Right.
some time off in the summer. to go to
Okay,
the
if you're
ballpark.
watching this, come send us to some of these
Please.
ballparks.
Please.
There might be a former Razorback if the White Sox
Summer
are ever
assignment. Hey,
near.
you know what? We'll send you to, well, you've probably been to the Chicago ones, but I'll go up to Chicago. I think we've got like 5 former Razorbacks between the Cubs and the White Sox.
There's one current Cub, Drew Smiley, who
Yeah.
I am not a huge fan of.
Oh my gosh.
He just like gives me like, I just go through problems during his starts because there's like 2 weeks where he just looked dominant last year and just was not good the rest of the season. So maybe not to go to. I mean, I'd love to work at Wrigley, but I've been to Wrigley multiple times. I haven't been to Guaranteed Rate or Comiskey Park, however people still call it, where the White Sox play. So that wouldn't be a bad idea. I would, if somebody wants to send me to Chicago for a weekend, I'd have a place to stay. I'd know food, and I'd get to go watch some baseball.
Taking notes.
So let's take notes and send this to management. Also, Oregon State, really quickly, they are 5-0. We'll talk about them in just a second.
Okay.
But I've been to those two places, all of the New York stadiums, Yankee, New Yankee, Old Yankee, City, Shea. Those are all fun. I've been to Coors Field in Colorado. That one was really unique. But those are really, I think, the only games. I don't think I've been to the stadium down in Miami yet, Lone Depot Park, I think it's called.
Yeah,
I haven't been there, but I've lived 30 minutes away from there for a couple of years now, and just still haven't been able to go down there. But I know my dad's been there a million times. He just refuses to take me.
That's
And
the problem.
he's been to a lot more ballparks than I have. I actually caught him. It's funny. There was a Cubs-Twins game. He was up in Minnesota for work, and I caught him on like the back of the Cubs. He was like sitting right behind home plate, and I caught him on the back of the Cubs Twitter. Yeah, he told me he had dinner with clients that night.
That's awesome.
No,
That's
it
funny.
wasn't. I was very jealous.
So my dad and my sister, speaking of funny stories like that, my dad and my stepmom and stepsister went to Detroit,
Hmm.
and my stepsister and stepmom went to the Taylor Swift concert, but there was also a Tigers game at the same time. And so they went to the Taylor Swift concert. My dad got like third row seats behind home plate, just right off to the side.
Yeah.
And he's wearing his Arkansas shirt. And so like it's red, and everyone obviously in the stadium is wearing like navy.
Uh-huh.
And so he stuck out like a sore thumb. So we were watching the game and we kept being like, there's dad, there's dad.
Kind of like
He's
the
just
Florida
chilling.
Marlins
He's
man.
like, all right, I'm going to the ballpark.
That's smart. I mean, there's the Florida Marlins man who, like, any big game, any big
Oh my
series in the
God.
playoffs, like, he'll be wearing that 2013
Yes.
gross orange jersey that I once upon a time actually didn't want to buy. But he'll be wearing that jersey, and it's like, oh, it's Marlins man right there. But that's cool. I've been to, where else have I been? And then we'll get into the actual series and enough fluff talk about it. But I have, like we've discussed, I've toured Fenway. I haven't been there for a game yet. I've walked around Petco Park in San Diego. I was there at the same time as the All-Star game back in 2016, so that was really cool. Same thing with AT&T. It's not AT&T anymore. It's wherever the Giants play. Oracle, I think it's called now.
Oracle Park. Yeah.
Because they changed it from AT&T. So I've walked around there as well, being in San Francisco. But those are really the only stadiums I've been to. I haven't been to too many, and maybe some will pop up. But hey, let us know in the comments where everybody still watching this has been, because we had a good viewing last week, I will say. So people,
Yeah.
thanks for watching.
Let us know, because it's pretty cool. Or like, give us your favorite, and we get it. Like, All right, Pittsburgh is number one. Like we got to check
No,
it
it's
off our
not.
list. We
No,
get
it's
there, but
not.
like maybe some other favorites that are, maybe hidden gems around the league.
That's a really bold take that you just said Pittsburgh is the number one ballpark to a Cubs fan. I'm just gonna let you know.
I apologize. That's not personal, but it is.
No, it's not.
Yes, it
I will
is.
say though, the bridge and the skyline in the back is really cool, but there's just something about Wrigley Field. But all right, let's talk about Arlington for the last couple of minutes and move forward. The Hogs are going to face 5-0 Oregon State coming this weekend, and this is an Oregon State team where most people, and I'm just researching this now and just going into it over the last few days. There's some good beef between Arkansas and Oklahoma State or Oregon State when it comes to that 2018 National Championship Series.
And it's one thing where like, I think Arkansas fans and myself included are going to have nightmares. I mean, I remember being in the stands in game 2 when that ball dropped in between Jared Gates, Eric Cole, and Carson Shaddy, and the feeling around me, the energy that just got sucked out of that building is a hard pill to swallow, right? And then they just didn't have it in game 3. You kind of had that feeling going out of game after they lost game 2 when they were an out away from winning it all, that they just weren't going to win game 3. And it was tough. And so this is the first time that these two teams have met since then, and I think that there's just that a little bit of bitterness still for Razorback fans. Oregon State fans don't care. They won. They do not care. And they've won a couple before. So, for Arkansas, that was taken away from them. And I think that there might be a little redemption. I mean, there's no trophy at the end of this. There's no national championship game if you beat them on Friday. But I think that Arkansas would like to win this game. I think there's more recent bad blood with Oklahoma State, and I think that's the fun right now is how fresh that kind of rivalry is, and I would really
Mm-hmm.
like to see it turn into an out of SEC rivalry with Oklahoma State, and I think it has that. It's funny. And I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent,
Oh,
but I
please
feel
do.
like Arkansas and Missouri have been forced into this rivalry that, quite frankly, nobody likes. But with all due respect, outside of, baseball and track and women's basketball, win those games, right? So Missouri kind of holds that stronghold on this rivalry that Arkansas fans just don't like. But out of nowhere comes this Oregon or Oklahoma State and Arkansas rivalry in baseball. And it has turned into this fun back and forth. We don't like you. You guys showboat. We play old school baseball, blah, blah. Like and it's
Yeah.
fun. And it came out of nowhere because it was organic and it wasn't forced. And so that's what's going to be fun, is to see the jawing, not just from the players, but I think you're going to see from the fans as well when Oklahoma State and Arkansas play on Saturday.
And Oregon State, we'll start there really quickly. They beat 19 Texas Tech 10-4 yesterday, scored 42 runs their opening weekend against Minnesota, Cal State, Bakersfield, and New Mexico. And, they're led by guys, 2 outfielders, Micah McDowell and Gavin Turley. So really, guys, it's going to be fun to watch because this feels like a bit of, your big names are both in the outfield for this Razorback team, in Kendall Diggs and Ty Willemsmeyer through the first week. And Dowell and McDowell and Turley are 2 guys from Oregon State who really led to that win over Texas Tech. But the interesting thing about that game against Texas Tech is this is an Oregon State team who they got out hit and they got out, numbered by the amount of runners that they had on base, and they only scored their runs in 3 innings. So clearly, you're probably going to get their weekend starter, and he'll probably go up against Hagen Smith on Friday, and that'll be really exciting. Maybe not. Maybe Brady Tigert gets that start, and Dave gives Hagen another day of rest. I don't know why I was blanking there. But it's an Oregon State team who's going to come in dangerous, and this is really Arkansas's first shot, in my opinion. It's saying, you're the number 2 in D1 baseball. You're 3-4 pretty much everywhere else. Can you stand on your own feet? Are you willing and worthy of that 2 ranking? Because if not, Oregon State's going to jump all those SEC teams because LSU continues to lose and Florida's lost a couple. Wake Forest has lost. So really that number 1 seed, the number 1 ranking is up for grabs, in my opinion, all throughout the country this weekend. Yeah. And I think if Arkansas wants that 1 ranking,
if you go down and take care
go
of
win
business,
Oregon State.
Yeah, I think you could jump to number 1 if you go down there and you take care of your business pretty handedly. But it's going to be tough. It's not going to be easy. But I think you're right. Oregon State has always had really good baseball talent. They're a baseball school. I don't think anyone's going to argue with me on that. And so I remember they went down there last year and just got spanked by TCU. Like it was ugly. And they learned a lot from that game. I don't want that to happen again, but I also think that playing these teams early in the season, again, a really good litmus test. Last week was about knocking out the rust. This week is a litmus test on where we are with the rest of the country and teams that will probably be contending in the postseason, if not in Omaha in a few months.
At least Oregon State and Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State, real quick to recap what they did opening weekend, 2-2. Ooh, excuse me. 2-2 wins over Sam Houston and Abilene Christian. Aiden Miola and Nolan Schobert are their big names in the win against Abilene Christian. So that's an Oklahoma State team. Like we said, we kind of expect them to make a deep run when it comes to the NCAA tournament. But Michigan, the other game in the series, Michigan's also 2-2. They dropped the first 2 games in extra innings to Western Michigan, and both of those, like I said, they lost in extra innings. Names to watch: Mitch Voigt, one of the top sluggers in the country; Jonathan Kim and freshman Dylan Veig, 2 guys who I think are, Michigan is a team in the Big Ten where a couple of years ago they lost to Vanderbilt in that 2019 College Baseball World Series Championship Series, and they really haven't been back in the Big Ten as of recent. Michigan isn't a team that's well known for baseball. I think they really snuck in that 2019 season where they were kind of one of those last 4 teams in and made that run to get to play Vandy in the big show, and that's something we've seen. Baseball's all about getting hot at the right time, no matter what level you look at. But this is a Michigan team where they're really expected to be middle of the pack in the Big Ten this year because your 2 Big Ten frontrunners are Iowa with Brody Becht and Indiana. I can't believe Indiana is actually good at baseball this year, which is really exciting for me, but that's besides the point. So 2 out of the 3 games for Arkansas are seen as quote-unquote winnable games. It's really going to come down to, can they beat Oregon State Friday night at 7 o'clock?
Yeah, I think so. And I'm excited. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to be a little bit of a battle. And I'll be interested to see, if I know covering Dave over the years, he's pretty consistent. So if Hagen's your Friday starter, I think he's going to stick to it. That, can this turn into a pitcher's duel? Could be fun.
Absolutely. I think it will be fun, and that's the cool thing. And I'm excited to go. Jacob Morris and I will be down there with all the coverage this weekend while you enjoy time with family, and Courtney is back here maybe watching softball with Mike. We don't really know.
Yeah.
Our Zoom meeting just popped up that it's going to end in 10 minutes. So on that note, we do have to wrap in just a second. But let's talk. This is our batting cleanup extra segment. One topic that's outside of maybe college baseball that we're going to talk about, or softball that we're going to talk about. And we just have to talk about this. I'm going to just show it. This is bad. This is Shohei Ohtani.
We were talking about this yesterday.
One of the big things on the internet right now is the issues with Fanatics, and not only Fanatics but also the MLB for all of their gear this year. It just looks really bad. And this, no offense, Shohei Ohtani, I don't want to see through your pants. Like, I don't know if that's weird to say, if that came out wrong, but like, that's an issue.
I don't think anyone wants to see through anyone's pants.
No, absolutely not. But that's an issue if I can see somebody's jersey through their pants, because clearly, one, the material isn't going to be good enough. And like, if I'm sliding, I'm telling you, I think a lot of these pants are going to rip. And if you've seen Cal Raleigh, it's even worse, where you can just see half of his jersey, and even the names on the back are just awful.
Yeah, that's a bad look. And for a sport that has so much money, you got to do better than that, because that's kind of embarrassing. Like, I think Cal Raleigh was even shout out Go Noles, was even doing it on purpose, where he had like split his jersey the way that he did and he tucked it in, and it was just like, oh my gosh, this just looks so bad. So luckily it's just spring training. Fix it before it starts. I don't know where you're gonna get that many baseball pants that quickly, but
I don't think they are. They can see on their screen right now. I popped up Cal Raleigh, and you can kind of see down here. I'll move the mouse a little bit. It just doesn't look good. And if you've seen the names on the back, they're just super curved. And there's one Texas Rangers minor leaguer that his name is literally down to like his obliques. That's how bad this is.
That's so bad.
It's really bad.
Oh man.
So
is this Fanatics' first contract?
With Major League Baseball, no. So Fanatics has been doing jerseys and stuff for the last couple of years. They've been the manufacturer, I think, since like 2018. But they've been the distributor since 2018. This is really the first year where Fanatics is starting to take over. I mean, Nike just kind of sent them, I think, the broad outline of the jerseys. Like they're like, oh, the same stuff that they send to like the high school kids who use the high school teams that use all of their slates and stuff. But this is really the first year, and it's starting with the NHL next year, where Fanatics is actually going to be the official clothing partner of the NHL and supplying all of the in-game jerseys. So what you're seeing now, expect that in NHL jerseys next year, and eventually I wouldn't be surprised if we get Fanatics branded MLB stuff in the next couple of years, which in my opinion I think is horrible for the game, horrible for the sport, unless Fanatics boost up their quality, which they should. But again, when you're distributing so much equipment and sales and making as much money as they do, it gets a little sketchy.
Yeah, I don't know. You just gotta look good, play good. It's not a good look.
I used to say that to myself every like pregame. It's like, look good, feel good, play good. There was an old saying, I think Joe Madden had, that he said, if you think you look hot, wear it, because you play better.
Yeah.
And I think that bodes a bit true.
Yeah, no, I really think so. I think there's a thing about, feeling good in what you wear and looking good in what you wear. You just have an overall better day.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I mean, me and you know what I mean? Not just being an athlete. So
yeah. I like to walk into work looking a little bit good, but anyway, Alyssa. Anyway, I don't know how to wrap from this. But we're gonna hard wrap.
Remember, look good, play good, feel good.
Exactly. Look good, play good, feel good. That's going to do it for episode 2 of Batting Cleanup. Thanks for joining us this week. We'll see you next week with episode 3.